Bom dia a todos. Nós estamos aqui, então, para dar início à palestra do professor Cédrick Bonnet, da Universidade de Lille, da França. Uma grande satisfação ter o professor Bonnet aqui conosco, né? O professor Bonnet é um especialista em postura, né? E informação visual, movimento dos olhos, uma variedade de características, né, do comportamento perceptivo e motor, que ele vai deixar claro para a gente aqui durante a palestra hoje. E, especialmente, eu gostaria de salientar que a presença dele aqui também é fruto de um trabalho conjunto nosso aqui e de um recurso de fomento obtido através da CAPES Club, do governo brasileiro e do governo francês. Do lado brasileiro, aqui nós temos o professor Fábio Barbieri, a professora Paula Polastri, professor Zé Ângelo Varela, que não pôde estar aqui hoje, e eu mesmo coordenando esse projeto, e com recursos também de uma parceria, professor Varela e professor Bonnet, especificamente nessa visita, através do consulado francês e da Unesp, no âmbito da USP, Unicamp e Unesp. Então, nessa visita, eles também têm o suporte disso. Então, é importantíssimo os nossos programas de pós-graduação, programa de pós-graduação em design, e eu estou coordenando atualmente, que está dando suporte para a gente, a estadia do professor Bonnet também. E nós temos também o professor Fábio Barbieri, que é o coordenador do programa de Ciências do Movimento, e que também participa dessa parceria. Enfim, thank you so much for being here, Cédric. It's just wonderful having you here this morning. And we're really anxious, although we know lots of work, it's always excellent to listen and talk about. And todos que possam ter questões, então guardem suas questões para que vocês façam logo após a palestra do professor Cédric. So, thank you so much once again. So, please. Thank you. Yeah. Anytime you want.
I understood almost everything. Espero que vocês estejam bem. Well, I will talk to you in English and talk to you about the topic how to optimize task performance, tasks. So in life, what we want, actually, everybody, we want to be efficient. So in our society, we want to be more and more efficient. Like we have to be more productive, faster, better. For example, students want, instead of publishing in 2 years, an article they want to publish in 1 year and a half. Like a researcher, instead of publishing one article in 1 year, perhaps he wants to publish in 10 months. Perhaps if you read an article in 2 hours, you want to read it in 1 hour and 50 minutes, and to understand the same way. So we want to be faster and faster and more productive. The question I will ask you today, and I will discuss, is how to be more efficient at work. And I will talk about 2 aspects. So how to be more efficient during short period of time. This is task performance, so how to improve task performance. Short time, so minutes, hours, days, and how to be more efficient in longer tasks, such as months, years. So it's more work productivity during life in the way. How to be more productive, how to be better. The first way to do it, of course, is to spend more time working. You work more, so this is one point. But this is not what I want to discuss today. I will not push you to work more. I want to find a way to be more efficient during the same period of work. So if you work 2 hours, how to be more efficient in 2 hours. A first way to do it, perhaps, is to make more frequent breaks. Perhaps if you want to work better during the day, perhaps to make frequent breaks, or perhaps even nicer breaks. If you have a weekend, you enjoy fishing, you will enjoy, and then you will work harder and better in your week. Perhaps also to find, you have to follow your personal rhythm. So if you work better in the morning, you have to work better in the morning, not in the afternoon, in the evening. Well, this is some solution. If you want to do it better, then you should find solutions. Perhaps also to drink coffee. If you like to improve your rentability, you need to drink if you get sleepy. Also, like for longer period of time, perhaps like to have some physical activity could help you to be more efficient. If you do that, you will be good into your health, and then you will produce better. Perhaps also, if you take some vacations, then you will come back like with more energy to work. So maybe this is another way to be better. But what I will talk to you about today is about the body position. Does changing the body position can help you to be more efficient? So here's a question. So does body position can change the way you are efficient? And as you see here, you see this guy sitting, like you actually, all of you are sitting now. And is it the best position or is it the only one that we can do? Other positions, so think about it, other position, body position that you can do to work. So of course, this one, I like this one. But also those ones, but I hope not for the second one. Well, the third one kind of difficult, still possible. This one even harder, okay? Even harder, but why not? I mean, you know, on one foot and try to do it, okay? Perhaps it's more efficient this way? This way, maybe, okay? So, of course, you have to try. Well, I like this one as well, you know, but this one doesn't work. I mean, don't try this one. You will not be more efficient. Okay. So the question I will talk to you about, I came to think about it and to begin this story just when the first blackout during the pandemic. I was just doing nothing, and in my living room I was looking at this picture because I have this picture at my home. So looking at it for hours, you know, because we had nothing to do. And you know, if I ask you who is the smartest hominid, so who is the smartest guys, you will believe that perhaps this is this one, right? This one with the computer will work better. And I was looking at it and thinking about it, and I was like, maybe, perhaps, if you look at this guy is as tall as this one, so perhaps this is not smarter than this one. You know, I was not doing anything, so I was thinking about it. And I was like, perhaps there is some, we are in a descending evolution, and in some way, perhaps we are getting worse and worse in terms of efficiency. I was just, you know, questioning the aspects. Maybe so the smartest person could be the one in the standing position. And I was thinking about it at this moment. And then the question, I developed the question. So you see here the body position, so more and more difficult, and the more and more unstable, and performance or productivity. So could there be some relationship in this? Is there some significant relationship? What is the optimal position to work best? I will ask you the question now, so think about it, okay? I will show different graphs. So first, you think there is no relationship between well, the body position and the task performance, okay? I will ask you your answers and think about it. This is A here. The second one is maybe the more stable, so because on the right you are more and more stable, and the better you are, okay? Usually this is the answer people will get, just to help you in some way. This is, but perhaps also, you could say the more unstable the people, the better they will be. Perhaps, you know, I don't know. Another solution is maybe you think that when seated, we work best. So this is the one here. You see, when you are like in a weird position, you work less well, less efficiently. And then the more unstable you get and the worse you are. Maybe also it is the contrary. You think about that the worst position could be the seated position. So that would be weird because if you spend your time seated, that would be strange still. Okay, this is E here. Maybe also you think that the best is when we sit or when we stand because this is a two usual position. So when you sit and when you stand. Or maybe other solutions. So I don't know, those kind of things. So you think about other things. So what are your answers here? B? Who is B?
I like changing. Second, I think is a good way of thinking.
So the E, right? E?
Maybe D.
D?
Oh, no, it's
C, D.
E. I think
like wondering about is there a solution to be more efficient? And this is what I will talk about with a review and with some insights about it. So first, in the literature, what you can read throughout history is that society position is the best to work. So this is for sure for task productivity, for work productivity, task performance, everything. Because well, you have three references here. Sitting is better than standing. Why? Because actually you get very easily tired when you stand. Also, this is quickly painful to stand, so to work. Also, well, you have to control your equilibrium when you stand, so you have to control it. And so you don't have to do it when you sit. Then you have to have more attentional resources involved into standing and doing the task when you stand. And also, you can read that when we sway upright, this is a perturbation for the visual system, at least for visual tasks, so not good to stand for task performance. As you see, the reason why I put two arrows this way, we should be better when we sit than when we stand. This is just classical in the literature for history. Two literature now you have like who talk about these aspects, the postural control literature and the literature on human factors ergonomics. And the first one, is discussing about how we sway and how we control equilibrium. And so we sway here, and you see the guy swaying, having to control equilibrium. In this literature, there is almost no interest in sitting. Almost no interest. I mean, I could find some articles showing the biomechanics, but almost nothing. And no interest in task performance. Almost nobody. I mean, I'm one of those who like to discuss task performance. Almost nothing. Nobody does it in this literature. In the other literatures, on the other hand, you see many discussion about where are we better, like when sitting, when standing, especially. Well, because it's ergonomics, so ergonomics, they want to know how it is going to work. And in this literature, there is almost no interest in postural sway at all. They don't care about the sway, but they care about task performance and about health. So health, ergonomics and health and task performance. What models in those two literatures? You can see that in the postural control literature, while it is classically accepted or discussed that you have two tasks, one of standing and one of performing the other tasks, the secondary tasks. And many models are of dual tasks, many models actually, in those articles I cite here. And what is said again is that even implicitly, because it's even so obvious that it is not said. The best is when we sit, we perform better. It's not said, so it is so obvious that it is not said. Because of limitation of attention, because of deviation of attention, of what I was telling you about. And as I said again, because standing requires attentional resources not available for other tasks. And so on the other literature now, what you can see is almost no hypothesis. So you just don't care, just measure and see what is best, and almost no, it is like less powerful the literature. But I found still one exception, one hypothesis. This is called as the attentional approach. And with the notion of narrowing of attention, which is very interesting. I was very interested into this hypothesis, saying that when you have no stress, you have less attention during a long period of time. When you need to have a little bit of stress to have optimum attention. Of course, when you have too much stress, then you get worse again. But I was like thinking to myself, perhaps, I mean, when we stand, we don't need so much attention, and so we may be in the position with optimum attention, and therefore, if it's true, then I was like, I accept the fact that we have less, that we could divide attention on one side, But if we get better when standing, perhaps, as I say here, it could compensate, you know, so worse in a kind of division of attention, but if you get better, then you can compensate. So for the hypothesis now, what about what would these two literature think about for these two aspects? As you see here, you will have in some way for task performance, in some way the worse, the more unstable, or the worse your task performance will be. Huh? You see the reason why you are better when sitting, you are better when standing, you are better than when being more and more challenged. And rare are the studies showing assuming better task performance when standing, as I was saying. And in the other side now, what about this approach? Here we believe that in some way we could be better, we could be as good when sitting, standing, except of course when we get very too much unstable, then we will be worse. You see, this is a way you could represent those hypotheses here. Like getting worse and worse, the more unstable, the worse you are, or like being almost flat, almost equal, and then suddenly being less performance. There are 3 reviews in the literature, like discussing those results. So many studies, about 100. And what are the results? So I will tell you now about this. The main finding is that actually there is equal performance between sitting and standing. So most of them, 90% of them, this is equal. So, and what you could say in some way is that the first hypothesis is not that right. You don't lose. This story of division of attention stuff. I mean, 100 studies and even more today. I mean, this is still the same thing, but it's equal. So equal. This is already good. This is already kind of going against the literature. But what you can see is that the flat line is kind of powerless for science, because well, what do you test? You test equality? No. You don't say I will test equality doesn't matter for science. And I was thinking at this moment, well, maybe we need a new model, like a different one than this one, just because I like to push a little bit. And I said, well, I came back to my living room, you know, and looking at this picture again, because I like this picture, and saying, well, perhaps standing could be a good solution to be more efficient, perhaps. I said, let's try to know if it could be a good hypothesis. And well, I begin to believe intuitively that we could be better when standing. And so what I created in some ways, I will call it a small bump hypothesis, to see that you could be better in standing, but slightly more, and then otherwise kind of flat. Is what we get in the literature. And this is totally against the mainstream and the flow, because well, nobody will believe in the literature of postural control that we can be better in any task when standing. Well, I call this actually to be true the trade-off hypothesis, better word. And well, carefully, I will tell you that I'm talking only about short-term tasks, because of course, then when you get into tiredness, if you spend 20 minutes upright or even 1 hour, I mean, this is another question. I never discussion between us, but I'm talking about short-term tasks. The precision again, precision is that this is testable only for sensory interaction with the environment. So, for example, visual tasks, or like hearing tasks in some way, or even like some sensory interaction with the environment. Well, but not in purely cognitive tasks. This is only in sensory interaction with the environment. So I will talk about visual tasks. It is my mainstream, and also because it is easier to be tested in this with this sensory system. So now I was checking the literature and trying to find some advantages, benefits of standing. So of course, if I had to find, if I had to be sure that I could be right, I mean, I have to find arguments about why should we be better when standing. And the first one is an article from Mark et al. showing that people can have better performance of affordances. So when swaying, then not swaying. They were like judging, whether they can sit on the seat pan, and going up and down. So it was here. They said, yes, I can sit down on it. Yes, I can. And no, I cannot. No, I cannot. And they were asked about whether they could do it. And in one condition, they were against the wall, so not swaying at all. And in the other position, they were just standing. And we could see that they were better when they were swaying than when not swaying. They didn't try anything. They didn't know if they were right or wrong. But this study is wonderful and showing that they just get the good results, perhaps just because they were swaying. And also some other arguments. The variability of postural sway could be good for perception or for learning, also for children. They need to move, and movement is good for them. So if they need to move and have variability, it could also be good to have it when we stand. Also for the eyes, because the sensory system, they need to move. So if your eyes is completely stable, you don't see. It's blurred, and the reason why you have microsaccades or you have saccades, because you need to move them. Also, if you keep constant stimulation, then you will not feel it. You will feel it at the beginning, but not afterward, because it's an acceleration. You need perturbation. And so you say, okay, all your system need to have perturbation, acceleration. And so why would the postural control system not need to have those stimulations? So it will be helpful for having those stimulations. And also, I was looking also at human history. And this guy, in his book, he was saying he was saying about the origin of bipedalism. So, like, people, why did they stood in the history? And he said something very interesting to me. He said, if postural sway was not advantageous, standing would be a ridiculous position. Meaning that why the hell would humans be standing if sway was not helpful? I mean, they would. If it was a disadvantage, they would not be standing to survive, And I recall the arguments I was saying about the attentional hypothesis. Perhaps you get more stress, a little bit more stress, and therefore it could be helpful to have more attention into tasks. And also other arguments that I could find. It is great to engage in action. So when I'm standing, I'm more willing to engage into action than when I'm sitting. It's only when you sit, you are stuck. And in your dynamic society, you want to be dynamic as well. So it's not the way to be. Also, more feeling of more power. So a study showing that when you gamble, it's easier for you to spend more money when you stand than when you sit, because you are more confident to win money. So this is when your body is extended, you are more confident than when you are sitting. For example, if you get into an oral presentation, it's better for you to be standing because you will be more confident. So this is science, and also you express more interest, you more enthusiasm when you stand. This is some studies that I will read. And I also perform a systematic review of the literature, asking myself, is it good to sway more or to stand than not to stand? And two kind of results. The first is studies testing task performance when changing the body position, but only in the standing position. So, for example, changing the feet position, so swaying less, swaying more, only this. Compare some comparable results. 4 studies, I could find 4 studies, and there was no improvement in the third free one, again, like so many studies. But in the first one I already discussed, is that there was significantly improvement in task performance when swaying. And also some other studies, but they didn't change the body position, but they actually looked at people like having affordance tasks. So, for example, can you sit on this? No. Can you sit on this? Yes. No. Yes. No. And it was long tasks, so they could measure postural sway on these tasks. Many studies did those kind of, or for example, can you reach this ball here? Like in virtual environment, you say no, and then they get it closer and closer, and at some point you say yes. And in these studies, so they use regression, so regression between task performance and postural sway. And in all of them, you find improvement in task performance when swaying more or when swaying in a more complex way. So it's fractal analysis, they do nonlinear analysis. So they show that the more complex your system, so this way, and the better your task performance. So, and also the more you sway some way, the more you sway, and the better you are. So what you can see here is that based on this review, this is an excellent basis to believe that it's better to be standing than sitting. I mean, there is no result showing the contrary, so at least this is a good point. So in some way, I'm talking to you about coming back to the trade-off. This is not really a question of position. This is not a question of position. This is a question of quantity of or quality of variability. Because when you change the body position, you change also the quantity or quality of variability. I say it here. The hypothesis concerns the amount of behavioral variability and not the position itself. So now we'll talk about, well, because like a model or hypothesis that cannot be tested is not a hypothesis. We need to find ways to test it. And this is what I will discuss now, just to tell you that in some way, this is a testable hypothesis. So presentation of 3 studies that I will do. But first, I have to make some more clarification about how to test it. Well, the first aspect is that, as I said, we can test it with the sensory interaction with the environment, and I prefer visual tasks. And but then, which visual task can we use? And I could see in the literature that they used some experimenters used the Stroop task. So some studies did that, and so well, it led to good results, showing actually that standing was also better than sitting. And what is this kind of task? So imagine you have 7 words of color, so red, blue, brown, and written in the 7 colors. So 7 by 7, 49 colors. So you can have red written in blue, or yellow written in yellow. And when you have this central target, this is the one you have to find. In my task, I mean, and then you search it, and it is here. So one single code solution. And this is the task. And then when they click on the mouse, because they have the mouse, then the central word changes, and therefore you have to find as many as possible. This is one way, I mean, one possible way to test the hypothesis, or you have also the attention network task. This is 5 arrows, and you have to say in which direction the first arrows is. Is it the central one? Is it on the left? Is it on the right? So you have to click as fast as possible. And or otherwise, you have, as other studies, the affordant task. So basically, can you sit or can you reach this task? Now, what about which body position can you perform to test the hypothesis? And in fact, as I was mentioning earlier, this is a question of variability and not a question of position. And therefore, the problem will be if you change the position, then you create in some way a bias or outlier, because what is responsible for changing task performance? Is it the body position, or is it the quantity of postural sway? So therefore, to test the hypothesis without having confounding, at least less confounding, is to use just the standing position and vary the quantity of postural sway. Because if you change the body position and the quantity of postural sway, then you don't know which one is best to explain your results. So just standing position, and what you can do is, for example, as I said, to vary the position of the feet. So you are more stable, so you sway less, and then you sway more here. You can push in this direction. What about now the most relevant behavioral variability? Is it your whole variability, so when you sway yourself, or is it because your environment moves? And I believe in this theory that you have to move yourself so as it can be helpful. So in some way you move to help yourself to better perceive. If your environment is moving, it's kind of a perturbation for you. So the same quantity for me it would be it's helpful if you create it or if you like yeah, if you create it and if you are just perturbed by your environment. So first, excuse me. Objective measures, of course, the task performance is the most important. It's not postural sway at all. This task performance, how optimum is the task performance, and then I can look at also body variability, the second important variable. And then, of course, you can also look at visual attention and eye movement. This is secondary variables. The first study that I already did actually is to change the mechanical quantity of postural sway. So you put people against the wall, so no sway, almost no sway, and then you change your body position, so feet position, so as I said, an easy way to do it. And also what I did in that study is to make two tasks, not just one, two visual tasks. The first one, for example, is incongruent task. So this is finding, the colors, the 7 words in 7 colors. But for example, you have to find brown in pink here. This is a kind of the easy task, even if it's called hard in the literature. Because I performed another task, which I call harder, is, for example, when you see this word, brown, written in pink, you have to find the word pink, written in brown. You see, this is I made hard life for my participants. And so you have, in this study, you have 8 tasks. You see 4 positions, 2 tasks, so 8. And I perform 3 trials per task and 1 minute. And the objective was to explore the relationships between behavioral variability and task performance in those conditions, with no external perturbation. So this study was already done, and actually it did give some good results about standing as efficient, even more efficient to perform tasks than other positions. Sorry, standing and swaying, because here they are standing all the time. A second study that is possible to be done in this to test this model is to change intentional quantity of postural sway. For example, you stand against the wall, so no sway, and then you ask people to sway as less as possible in one task. So this is classical in the postural literature. So just stand and sway as less as possible, or just stand and no instruction, so just sway normally. Otherwise, even like do the task and sway more than, so push yourself to sway. So it's weird, but it's never done in the literature. I mean, I don't know any study published with people engaged to sway and to perform something. But you could do that. So sway as less as possible, just no instruction, and sway more than usual, and perform the visual task. So in some ways, they are deciding to change the quantity of postural sway by themselves. They are exaggerating so as less as possible or as much as possible. And again, 2 visual tasks, for example, because to change. And so it's kind of the same design, and this time it will be to explore relationship between variability of the body and task performance, but this is intentionally guided. A first study now will be, for example, to use head-mounted display and to change the quantity of oscillation that they can get into their eyes. So I was saying that for me it will not change task performance, but if you are saying so, you have to test it. So you can do, for example, no optic flow into the design. So you have the visual task into the head-mounted display and nothing moves. Or you can make it move slightly as if you were seated, for example, so almost no movement. Or you can make it a little bit sway as if you were trying to sway as less as possible, or just as normal. Or you can perhaps make it twice more, so like the stuff moving twice more than what you would do when standing, or like 4 times more, for example. And again, you could do the tasks. 8. So this time, there are 8 conditions, but you can do one single task and 8 in these 8 conditions. and to explore the relationship between variability of the body, virtually implemented, and task performance. So you see here the summary of these studies. You could test it in changing biomechanical constraints, in changing intentional constraints, and in changing also the virtual constraints into the paradigm. So to finish now, there could be nothing significant in these studies. So if there is nothing significant, what will we do? Right, we go to vacation, right? Because it's not significant, so nothing to do. But now, if we get some significant result, then this is the contrary of what happens. We go to work now. And consequence in some way, like for practical aspects now, what happens if we can find some result better, for example, when standing? Well, it could help you to think that maybe you could work more at work in the standing position. So, for example, there are some desks called sit-stand desk, and actually I'm using myself those desks because I'm sure I'm right on this theory, and so I said, okay, let's do it. And perhaps this is the best solution to be efficient and also to avoid fatigue. Because if you stand to be more efficient, and then when you are tired, you sit, and then when you rested enough, you stand, and when you sit. So this is in some way changing a lot your position. Because of course, when you stand 10 minutes, and if you get tired, and so. But in some way, I'm used now to get tired to sit too much. When I sit 15 minutes, I enough sitting, and I want to stand. So this is so I assume it should work both for task performance, but also for work productivity. For task performance, I can do it just straight, so standing. But for work productivity, for a long period of time, then you need to sit at some point because you're obliged to sit. And there are some advantages of standing more in your life, actually, and this is also a reason why I came to stand more on myself, is that it's better for health to breaking those prolonged, excessive sitting position. And many studies show that it is very problematic to sit too much. Very bad job to sit too much, and to tell you just the story that you can, it can lead you to get it can lead you to lose some years of your life. You can get cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular problems. So this is very bad to see too much. Thank you for your attention. And yeah, so I have questions.
Thank you, Cédrick. Very nice talk. So we have room to think about position and dynamics of perception action.
I see that you stand now.
Yeah. Vamos abrir para as questões então e dar início I could get started just one question first, and then I think our thing. Any questions so far? You can start.
I have one.
So go ahead, please.
Cédrick, congratulations about to propose a new idea about the stand and sitting. I think it's very interesting. We discussed yesterday a little about that, but I'm wondering about the cognitive task. Do you think the complexity or the difficulty of the cognitive task can influence in your new model or not?
No, I don't believe so, because in the 100 published studies, they make very hard job for the participants. And even me, I did 2 studies. The most difficult. You see, the most difficult task you do, and just not 1 minute, but 2 minutes. And actually, I'm just now making an experiment. 15 minutes, 60 minutes of reading very hard text. And what I find, this is just from yesterday, 16 minutes, so either sitting or either standing or like making half and half. I don't find significant result because I have only 9 participants, and as you could see, if it's equal all the time, we need so many participants. But what I can see is that it's getting on all my results is getting better when just standing actually. So and I have this for the study I did not show you. One here I'm finishing this one, and as you see, so positive correlation. So between the number of words, so you know the one over. So the more they swayed because it's positive correlation, and the better they were. But you see, it's almost flat. 0.01. So this is good, but this is very flat. So so in some way, this is equal performance between standing and standing, even hardest possible task equal, or slightly better as I show here, or as I'm finding now. But people don't find better result because they don't push hard enough. In some way, you have to push so much to, and then. If you push too hard and too much, of course, if you ask people to stand 1 hour, then they will crash in some way. At some point, they can be better in standing, and suddenly there will be a crash for sure. So this is my belief. And yeah, no, people push very hard, and I do it very hard, and it doesn't make people make worse results. And many tasks are done in the literature actually. With like a key, even like you are not used to use your computer standing, and people do it just for the first time. And it's equal performance. This is very strange, very good to know it, and I agree with that because I tried, and that doesn't make any problem. Thank you. Yeah.
Professor Bonnet, thank you very much for your lecture. My question is, first, I believe there is a cultural aspect that leads people to prefer to be in a seated position. For instance, this facility is completed with chairs, and we're kind of directed to sit. Do you believe it's interesting to measure, to adopt some scale to measure preference? I mean, you can find out that being in a standing position is very productive, but what about the preference? Maybe people knowing that they will rather stay seated. What do you think about this?
The first, thank you. The first answer I will tell you is that it is not really like cultural preference. It is a constraint that all people in the world are doing. You sit since you are a child because you are obliged to sit in your classroom. So everywhere you are obliged to sit. You are obliged to sit in the next classroom. You are obliged to sit somewhere in the university, and you are so obliged to do it in your life that now you are all seated. I mean, me, when I go to conference now, I'm standing in the back of the room. I'm not saying for sure, I'm not saying in front of, but I'm standing there. Sometimes, not always, but standing, and I get tired, I sit, and when I want to stand, I stand. This is not really a cultural aspect, this is more constraints imposed by our society. And we understand this because if you want to control 20 children, make them stand and they will move all the way. You cannot do that. So you cannot, I mean, even there is no solution. You could be standing, but if you stand in front of me, then you will not be all of you standing in the back of the room. You know, so in some way you have to be special to stand. And what I'm saying is that I do it myself because I can. But if many people do it, then it will be more difficult. You see. I don't know if I answered. So, and then, is it a question of preference? Sure. I mean, I'm not saying that you have, or it's better for you to stand all the time. It's not what I said at all. But I say that maybe to change the position is a good way to behave. And I'm sure perhaps sometimes you just get like some pain in your back or in your legs to sit, and you say, I would like to stand. And in this time, you don't do it because everybody sits around you, and so you don't want to stand. And in this case, you could stand because, well, you are allowed to do it, and then you will do it. You see?
So I have a question. If you said that we standing position is better, is equal, but if we go further, so I saw a video that a woman work on in a citizen's desk with a treadmill and walking in a treadmill, and she said this helped her to get more focus on her job. So what do you think about that? If we go further and improve movement in position?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. So, but again, I will say that I'm not saying it's good to stand a long time. I'm just saying like short period of time. So it may be better to stand a short period of time than to sit and to stand and to sit. So this is my first point. I prefer just to be careful about this because this is at all not standing. You know, when I'm using my desk because I do it at my desk, my office. And when people see, the people saw it the first time, say, "Wow, you spend your life standing?" I said, "No, no, no. You spend your day standing." He said, "No," and that was the first reaction they have. You spend your day standing? He said, "No, sure. Look at I have a button and it's going down and up and down." Okay. So, and then it could be better to even to make some exercise like the biking. Well, I imagine in the future, like researcher in their office and having a bike and doing some some exercise to be more efficient. Yes, sure. But what I can tell you is that in this literature, the task is again equal. This is as strange as it is, but it is equal. So when you bike and when you do some tasks, of course, I'm not writing because you will make it worse. But some tasks that you can do when making exercise or like running and, for example, calling someone because this is possible to do it, then it's equal also as far as I could see. But the point is that, yes, sure, but you will not run for hours. If you could do that at your office, why not? But I would say perhaps it's too much, like too early to do that. Begin by sit stand desk and then.
And then the video, the lady is in home office, so they can sit the stand desk, and when she's tired of sitting, she gets the stand position and put the treadmill.
Yeah. You can do that. I mean, if you're at your home, you can do that, and I will be fine. But I would believe in my intuition is that if you want to make some physical activity, just do your physical activity outside because at your home you get like warm very quickly and you will be sweat and well, what is the point of and then just get outside and come back and work. But then there's also the question of enjoying also because well, if you do your work and do your exercise at your home, then what do you do when you have finished? You don't want to enjoy anymore, or you will just do it again outside. So this is a question of preference. But at least it doesn't make worse the result for some tasks, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
More question? Any other points? If you need some help in translation, se alguém precisar de ajuda para fazer a questão.
I have a question. Thank you, Professor, for your lecture. My question is about the time, optimal time to change their bar position. Is there some indication in the literature about the time or optimal time to change the bar position, or is individual dependent?
That's a good question. So, I will tell you a first story because me, I have my knowledge I will tell you about. But first, I know some people like having those desks, like getting those desks in their office, because now those desks are well developed into like the US and Canada and even Australia, north of Europe. This is getting there. I mean, people get those desks and they don't know why, but they get them. And then at some point, I asked someone, okay, she told me we get those desks, and say, do you know why? I said, no, we just have them. And then I asked her just to know, when do you use them? Do you use them first? Because well, you have the button, but you can still keep them, sitting. And she was telling me, well, of course, it's individual preference because, but people use it especially after lunch. And she was telling me because they want to be more efficient, and after lunch, you want to sleep. And if you stand, then you will not sleep. So and I was like, wow, they want to get better into their work, and when they feel that they sleep, they will use it. And I will tell you now, my preference is also when I get to my job in the morning, I don't stand. I don't like to stand just straight when I get there. This is my individual preference, and then but I like to do it later in the morning, and then at the beginning of afternoon. But I do it very regularly. And so the other point now is how much to stand, because it's not just when, but how much and how frequent do you have to change those questions. I discussed those questions into an article published in 2022. So Bonnet and Cheval, 2022, and how much and how often? And the question. And, how much I was saying because getting into the literature of health problem related to standing, to sitting, I get to the point that you will have to stand as much as 50% of your time in the day, not to have any health problem in the future. But what does it mean? 50% of your time means if you spend 8 hours at your work, it means 4 hours standing. So 4 hours standing, 4 hours. And then it's not 4 hours straight, but better it is to cut 10 minutes, for example, 10 minutes. And well, this is the point I was reaching. And so if you do 10 minutes, it doesn't matter how you begin. You do it just the way if you get to work, so, okay, prefer to sit first, and then I stand and sit. This is a new way of life, I'm telling you. Okay.
Other questions? I have one here that I was just thinking about. 2 parts actually. One, like, and I'm gonna keep just the body sway first idea.
Okay.
When you look at like Strophagan,
Yeah.
notion of facilitation or facilitatory control.
Okay.
And I understand he's saying, well, if swaying more or less is good or bad for what you're doing, and then so he's saying, well, it depends on the task. And for example, there was one study looking at when you fixate things close and further away, and we may have different tasks. Let's say if it's reading or if it's something else, and even if you control for the, let's say, like the strongness of the optic flow, you have things closer, and well, and you were thinking about this facilitation somehow, because it's something like, and I remember when I read that, I said, well, it's saying more could be better for dancing, but not exactly for shooting. And the thing is that notion of facilitation part of your interest, or it's not? And okay, Kiran, I'll do the second part later. Okay.
But okay, thank you for this very important question. In fact, I'm going even further than Strophagan, because Strophagan is saying we should reduce sway to get better, but he never said we can be better in swaying than in not swaying. Never said that. Never. He said when we stand to perform like goal-directed visual tasks, we should sway less because we have to interact with. But it's not saying no sway. And in some way, I would believe that if he would put people sitting, he would believe that this is better to sit than to stand. So, as he's saying, is that well, you sway, and in some way it's disadvantageous, so, and you will find a way to adapt your control, so sway less to perform better. But still, you still sway, so this is still a problem in some way. That's the first question. And me, I will be like, and this is a study that you know because you're part of it. And I try to make it like no sway and sway more and like this. And in some way, trying to find where is the limit, because of course there is a limit. If I move too much, of course I will be worse. But where is the limit? I believe that without swaying, we are not the best, as when we sit, for example. But what is the limit when we sway more and more? And the point is that, as you know, when we are fit together, we are still best, actually, but not when the task is extremely difficult, then we have kind of a crush in this last study we did. So it depends on the task also, of course, on the task.
Yeah, the second part would be that, you know, like how much you can facilitate something. And so it's about your notion of trade-off.
Yeah.
And when you look at the narrowing effect, you know, so when you look at performance and across to, let's say, level of activity or excitation of the systems to respond, or you have an inverted EU, right? To some point, you still like performance, and after that you get like worsening performance. So what is optimal? Then it's you said in the beginning it's a question of affordability, of course, but so how can you, let's say, focus on optimal aspects, looking at through your question of standing and sitting? What is optimal in so many different ways? What do you think so far? Yeah,
this is what I believe is optimal will be here. And well, I don't agree with the new hypothesis.
Inverted EU.
No, I'm not into this. I mean, for that, I'm more perhaps more into this actually. But for task performance, and here you will see what is the standing. You see, it's very small. So if you are like, well, in some way I'm wrong because in the last study I did, we are even better here. So the bump will be a little bit bigger than what I showed here. But still, I'm like looking at this bump, how it is, and I don't know. I'm just saying, well, perhaps it's just here, and actually, well, it seems to be more bigger than I thought originally thought. And my last study that I conduct now, I was like sitting, standing, perhaps because of tiredness, and for 16 minutes, like better when just standing all the time. So it's also kind of unexpected for me. I mean, better than I expected, so which is good. I don't know if I answered your question, but
yeah.
Somewhere I don't know exactly when it's best, but I'm looking for like to understand it. And if you like to study it with me, of course, I will welcome any study about it.
I have a question, but you know, I didn't close my thoughts yet, but I will ask for you. I was wondering about human development, so development of posture control. Yeah, so I was just wondering, so when we get older, so you expect that adults sway less than children, and then when we get older, we have more oscillation, right? So I was just thinking about your hypothesis, and you know, so you are saying that we have, when we sway less, or no, we are good in all tasks as you were showing, right? But you know, our system, our development in postural control, we expected to sway less. We know that it's test detriment, but what do you think about this? So we have to think that, okay, I have to be adaptable, you know, to any task. But I also wonder that our system just say, okay, when you are growing, you have to sway less, and then you have to adapt to the tasks. But why do we have this direction in our development?
Which direction? Like to
Sway less.
To sway less and less?
Yes.
Oh.
Comparing adults and children, for example, or adults and old
It's
people.
my belief is that children, they have to use variability, like trials and mistakes, and they have to kind of explore the environment. So because they don't know it, so they explore it. And the more you explore it, and the better you know it, and the less you have to explore it. So reason why we will sway, in some way sway less and less, because you don't need it. Also because the system is not ready at the beginning, it's not ready to stand. So of course it's like not stable because of the postural control, not the best, but also because they need actually to explore, to feel their body, or perhaps to better perform their task. So in some way, this is a question of efficiency, both in postural control and also the need to explore, to get into the connection between perception and action. They need to explore, and variability is important. And then the more you train or the more you live, and the less you need that variability. The point also is that when you move, so when you explore, it is costly, so it costs energy. And therefore, if you don't need it, you will not do it. You will not do it. You as an adult, you don't need in some way to sway, and so you're not like this. Perhaps it's better for you to do it, but when you don't need it, then you will not do it. But I am telling you that you will do it if you want to follow like a bird in the sky. You will move more because your goal is to look at the bird, and then you will move more than just standing. So you will use your variability in the way to perform or to succeed in the task. But when you don't need it, then you will not need to explore, and you will not do it. And coming to all the others now, right? Your system become less efficient, and then you get worse in postural control. So you sway more because your system is less used to, is less performance efficient to control your posture. Yeah, well, it is what it is. And perhaps also because your sensory system is less efficient, you need perhaps more exploration. So in some way, you will say that people will need to sway more. Older adults, they will need to sway more to perform equally in task performance. This is what I will believe intuitively. But the point is that if they sway too much, because they don't have a good control, they will lose control. So they cannot do it in some way. So this is kind of a conflict between needing to do it because of their sensory system affected and not able to do it because otherwise they could fall. So they have a trade-off in some way. They have a trade-off to decide between task performance and keeping control. This is another story. For me, the exploration hypothesis only works, this is perhaps what I didn't say, but this is only working for healthy young adults so healthy systems. The exploration that I discuss here is for young adults, so this bump in some way. So this bump a little bit bigger than what I show here. It will not work for older adults or pediatricians, and perhaps it's even bigger for young adults, the children, because they need to explore. And if they were not exploring, then they will not be able to perform well the task. And then you have to trade-off is a good word because you have to decide what you prefer between spending energy and succeeding, but then not too much energy. In some way, you want to use as less energy as needed. When you go somewhere, you go straight. You don't move here or there. You want to be efficient. You want to go straight. And but the question of energy is important here.
Oh, just one more. Yeah. Keep thinking about this. So I was thinking about the difficulty of the task, and we talked very quickly the other day. When you're trying to compare like the standing and sitting and things like movement, body sway, and do you normally make like distinctions between the side of the difficulty, the more perception action side, and the more abstract cognitive, like information processing, or sort of calculation, mental calculations and things like this? Would we expect some continuous between these two things, or they're separate? Because you can increase the difficulty of the relationship between perception and action, and of course you can put constraints on the body position, like fit together and things like this. Or you can give like some aiming tasks to combine movements, eye movements, and things like this, environment and things like this. But you can get like worse and worse in terms like like you did in a color. You can combine like more abstract level. So I was thinking about like this difference between more perception action and cognition in a more traditional sense, because sometimes it looks like they treat cognition to everything. So if you make it difficult, like in a body position, so that requires more cognition. But is that the same cognition where you're talking about, or there are some different things going on? This should affect of the relationship you are looking at, right? If you consider, so my point is, for example, you showed affordances as a base to look at some support, but the thing is, affordance studies that are not looking at the same level of cognition, they more abstract, right? They more functional sort of cognition. So is that important to consider difference in a, let's say, cognition concept based on like on posture control and things like that?
A question about, well, it's true that in affordant task, they don't have to make cognition, they just have to perceive whether they are able to do tasks or not. Can you sit on this one? There's almost no cognition in some way. And me, I'm doing a kind of tough task, and even like the arrow, because it's not tough to do it, but it's not hard to do it. But if you have to do it as quickly as possible, then of course the reaction time is important. And well, the cognitive point is difficult to handle, so I will have difficulty to answer you because for me this is more a question of vision. So this is more a question of perception. I need to sway, and therefore I will sway whatever the cognitive aspects. And if I don't need to sway so much, then I not need to do it. Because I'm visual tasks, so I'm doing some tasks involving much cognition. I will try to make it hard. We can make it harder than this, but this is making a bias in some way. This is visual task or is it cognition? I prefer just to be sitting on the visual aspect first and then to combine them. But at least with those affordant tasks, in some way without much cognition, it works, as I showed in the review. And me, doing some cognition to it and kind of hard, it works as well. Because me, like in my new task, they are reading a text, very difficult text found in Wikipedia about history of Egypt, of countries, and then after 15, 60 minutes, I ask questions, so very hard questions. And me, I did it, I said, wow, not able to answer the question. And so this is very, very difficult at the cognitive aspect, and it works also. So I would say it doesn't matter, so cognition, but I prefer to keep it as much away as possible to avoid bias.
Thank you. Yeah. Bom, então, eu gostaria de agradecer imensamente a presença do professor Cédric Bonnet, conosco aqui, e lembrar a todos que o nosso projeto é um projeto de 4 anos, então a gente vai ter a tendência que a gente tenha uma interação crescente, né, nesse período, e evidentemente a gente vai poder aproveitar os diferentes momentos dessa trajetória e ver o avanço. I'm just saying, like, so our project is going to take like 4 years long, so you're probably going to see like lots of new stuff coming on from the sitting, standing, discussion. So thank you very much for a very, very interesting topic. Thank you.
I hope you are in trouble now.